Welcome everybody to Carl's Creepshow. He's an actor, writer, and director. He starred as Lamb Mask in 2011's You're Next. Mr. LC Holt, how are you doing?
Doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing okay. A little bit of the cold, but I'll muck through it.
All right. Excellent.
What have you been doing since last time we chatted?
Well, I've been working on a number of things. I do the weekly show on YouTube,
Yeah.
which is every Saturday, in which we discuss all kinds of crazy stuff, viewer requested stuff we come up with. Pretty fun show. And other than that, I've been working on this book of short stories for about a year and a half,
Hmm.
which should hopefully come out this year. But I said that last year.
Okay.
So, God willing and Jesus tarries, there'll be a short story collection this year.
Do we get a name drop on the book?
It's called Grim Grimoire.
Oh, nice. Nice. Okay. So that's going to be something for us to look out for.
Oh, yeah. And hopefully I'll have it to you guys this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking forward to it. Now, I haven't seen Spiritus yet. It's on my watch list. What was it like being on the opposite side of the camera, shall we say? And was that your first major production as a director or writer?
It was the first one that was, major. I had directed something years ago that was feature length, but it was sort of an experimental film, and it wasn't a horror film. But Adam Wingard was in it, the director, which most people know my connection to him. Elaine Hughes, who played the Fox Mask in You're Next, was in that movie, but that movie never came out. Spiritus is actually already out on DVD, which I'll show it to you. I'll put it right in front of my face. There it is. Spiritus. It's on DVD, and you can buy it, pretty much through me. It's pretty much self-distributed. The whole thing was an experiment just to see what we could do. But it is definitely a genre film, and we got a lot of good reviews for it, and everyone seems to be really happy with it. Very low budget film, but a lot of creativity and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into that one over the course of about 2 years it took us to make Spiritus.
Oh, wow. You able to give us a general little concept rundown on what the film's about?
Yeah, it's about a group of friends who knew each other when they were younger. And when they were younger, one of their other friends had killed herself, or so the story goes. And they start to suspect whether or not she'd actually been murdered. And this whole time that they're trying to investigate it, her evil spirit seems to be haunting them. Now, whether it's really haunting them or not, you have to watch the movie for.
Yeah.
But that's the general concept.
Okay, nice.
So it's
And
kind
you
of a
said,
ghost story, kind of a ghost story.
nice. You said Wingard is involved in that one as well.
Not in Spiritus, no. He was involved with the first one. He acted in the first one.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yeah.
All right. So that is a film that I'm going to have to look forward to getting off you, actually.
Oh
And
yeah, of
I'll take
course.
that in. Let's talk about Your Next a little bit. How did it feel playing a mass crossbow wielding killer? Were there any certain things that LC Holt, as an actor, done to prepare for the role?
Well, for that I had to work out a lot because it was a very physically demanding role. There's a lot of running and fighting and axe play. So I had to work out, try to get into some sort of shape because I also did all the stunts in the movie.
Hmm.
Um, so everything in the movie that's the lamb mask is me. Now, if there was anything I couldn't do or I felt unsafe doing, I certainly would have had no problem throwing it off to one of several very, very talented stunt men.
Yeah.
But there was nothing I couldn't do. There's a scene in the movie where Sharni Vincent, the star of it, plays Erin. She jumps out of a second story window. Obviously, they're not letting Sharni Vincent jump out of a second story window.
No.
So this stunt woman named Renee Moneymaker did the jump out of the window. And I remember, because me and Wingard go back a long way. Like I first met him when he was 19, auditioning for his very first movie, feature-length film, which I was in, called Homesick, which is available through Synapse Films. And I remember standing there on the set at this gorgeous multi-million-dollar mansion at the dead of night, with all these people standing around, all these lights and 2 cameras going. And we watched this stunt woman jump out of a window twice into an airbag 2 stories down. And I turned to him and I said, you know, when we were just making movies where your brother held the boom mic in Alabama, did you ever think we'd be standing here? And he said, well, I kind of hoped.
Right.
So yeah, but it was an interesting experience to have taken this whole kind of journey with Adam from literally guerrilla filmmaking. I mean, our second feature film we did together was a movie called Popsicle. Part of it was filmed in my grandmother's backyard.
Okay.
I mean, we used to, I mean, you know, it was good old fashioned grab your camera, get a light, and start rolling back when we started. And of course now, you know, he's directing King Kong versus Godzilla. So for the Pirates of the Caribbean people. So we've come a long way.
There you go. You kind of took a page out of Roger Corman's book with the guerrilla warfare filmmaking.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And nowadays it's even easier than it was back then, because back then we had to use DV tapes.
Yeah.
Now it just goes straight onto your disc. You put it right in the computer. You edit. It's a lot. I mean, I remember when we did Popsicle, he had something like 900 hours worth of DV tapes to go through because he edited the film himself.
Wow.
Which he edited Your Next as well. Of course, that was not on DV tape. But yeah, it's come a long way in a short amount of time, really. I mean, we did our first movie in 2002, I think it was, 2001, somewhere in there. So in about 20 years, we've all kind of somehow come a long way. It's just amazing how these things happen.
Yeah, it was good stuff. You able to tell us a little bit about the home used, or I guess, was it a lodge or a mansion?
It was a mansion that was being refurbished. It was on a golf course, believe it or not. If you actually go in the backyard past that little patio area you see in the movie, the one where I die, you keep going, you're on a golf course. We never showed the golf course in the movie.
Oh, okay.
But it was being refurbished, and I think it was about to be sold for something like $20 million. It was a huge house. You don't see all of the house in the movie, actually. You just see a small fraction of it, because that house was both the location, and it was also where we had production offices in the attic. We had a wardrobe department. We had special effects down in the basement. We had the art department. Everything was in that house. So, which was kind of nice. It was so big because you could go from upstairs, you know, having a coffee and a smoke, to downstairs and be shooting a scene.
Yeah.
So there was no reason for a lot of unnecessary travel and stuff. And as you know, most of the stuff that I do is localized in the house.
Yeah.
So or around it. I mean, there was one location that was not in the house, and that's where I followed Sarah Myers to the neighbor's house, and I punched her through the window and all that. That was across town, not running distance from the house, but movie it is. And that was a whole other experience. Jeez, yeah,
So
that was
basically during the making. The whole entire studio was basically within the confines of that mansion.
Yeah, everything was localized right there.
Yeah.
I mean, you needed something to do with wardrobe, like something tore or something. You just go upstairs down the hall, and there would be the wardrobe. Which is why, if you watch the movie, whenever they go upstairs, all those closed doors that never get open are closed, because there's like an art department back there. There's a makeup department back there. If it was open, you'd see all our wardrobes, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, really, when you go upstairs, you only see 2 rooms, and those were the only 2 rooms that weren't being used by production staff.
That's pretty cool, though. I mean, it makes everything that much easier.
Yeah, it's kind of cozy, you know?
Yeah.
We're all there together. We were all, you know, living this experience together in this one location.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. What was your favorite scene in the film?
Oh my God, my favorite scene. That's a tough one. Probably the scene where with the table flip. That everyone asks me about me flipping the table.
Yeah.
That scene was really, people go, oh, how did you flip that big table? And I'll tell you, I was pissed. That's how I flipped it. There was. I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you. I don't know if this is an exclusive story. I might have told it somewhere else. But
Okay.
there was one particular stuntman who was obsessed with doing my stunts in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted to get into my wardrobe so bad. And that sounds sexual, but I don't mean it that way. And he was always trying to go behind me and say, well, he can't flip that table. Or, he can't chop through that door. I need to do that. He's an actor. And so this got me so pissed. And as I was saying, we were all in a centralized location. So talking smack is something that gets around to you pretty easily. So even though he would never do it when I was around, you get word. So I just put all of my anger toward this guy into that table. And I came up and I flipped that thing. And that thing went totally, it was supposed to go onto its side, but I actually flipped it all the way over onto the top, which the art department loved because then they didn't have to reset all the food. It was all hidden under the table. So they were like, oh, this is a great day. And, but sometimes things like that happen. But it's very helpful for an actor because you can just use all of that into in your performance. Like, you don't have to be angry at what you're angry about, which in that scene was finding my brother dead. I've never found my brother dead, thankfully, but I was pissed at that stuntman. So when I let out the anger I have on the stuntman, it is equivalent to what the character would feel when he found his brother dead.
Right.
So it's all an illusion. You just have to somehow create an emotion that's similar enough that you can sell it as being whatever the character is feeling. It's called sense memory, and I go with that all the time. It's a very useful tool in acting.
Well, it worked, sir. Good job.
Thank you.
I'll tell you one thing. I actually done a rewatch on the film there the other day again, and I don't know why, but maybe it's because it's relatable. Every time I see that nail go through your foot, it makes me cringe.
Yeah, that's the Home Alone moment.
Right.
Yeah, what we called it on the set was the Home Alone moment. And, I pull my foot off of that thing. And, there's a story about everything in that movie. But the story about the nail was, I come through and then you see the fake foot go down on the real nail.
Yeah.
And then you see the fake board stuck to my boot and I'm trying to get it off. Well, they had a board back behind me because, she lays down 2 strips of nails. One is a decoy and then the other one is the one I step on. Well, we had a great AD on that movie named Corey Johnson. I believe his last name was Johnson. And Corey, just before we rolled, said, that piece of board over there that has the real nail sticking through it, should we move it and replace it with the foam nails? And thank goodness he did, because the first take I did when I had that board and then I fell to the floor, I fell directly onto the foam nails.
Ooh. Hello?
My ass. I mean, it would have been not good. So it's great to have a good assistant director. Corey actually saved me a couple times in that movie. I remember there was another scene where Sharni swings a knife at my head, and just before we, shot it, he was like, well, let's change it out with the plastic blade. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. Sharni's great. I trust her with my life, but I don't like people swinging knives at my noggin.
No, I don't blame you. Who are some of your main acting influences?
Well, I remember you and I have talked about this before. We talked about Anthony Perkins.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told you Anthony Perkins was a big one for me. I loved his style, his sort of laconic style. He's probably the one that I admired most growing up because I was a huge fan of not only the first Psycho, but especially I think of his Psycho, the one he directed, Part 3. I think is a really underappreciated movie. And beyond that, I could say a lot of the usual folks. Like Al Pacino was a big one for me. And then I got to do a movie with him when I was a teenager called The Insider that Michael Mann directed. And that was a dream.
What was Al like to work with?
Al is great. Really good guy. but shorter than I imagined,
Okay.
than my 16-year-old mind imagined. But boy, can he fill the screen, you know.
Yeah, he's got that presence.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he's all presence, and
Yeah.
he's amazing. And it was great to just because you know how he does his Al Pacino rants. In this scene, he was out on the street with a phone, and he was telling a guy, you know, I'm two things: curious and pissed off. And I got to walk behind him all night while he cussed out this guy on this phone. It was great.
That's awesome. So you were what, 16, you said, when you worked with Al?
I think I was 16. Yeah. Well, let's see. The movie came out in '99. It shot in. I was 17. Yeah, it was shot a year before it came out.
Yeah, it's a big accomplishment for a 17-year-old young man, though.
Yeah, and I just happened into it. You know,
Yeah.
it's important to know the right people and be open to the right opportunities at the right time because that it makes all the difference in the world.
Yep, true enough. So you were also in VHS 2. You were Kyle in Tape 49 segment?
Yes, I was in
Wraparound?
the wraparound
Yeah.
segment.
For anyone that hasn't seen the VHS series, or Part 2 in particular, that you're in, you want to tell them a little bit about it? Or
Well, the section I'm in is sort of the section that tries to explain where all the videos came from in that particular movie. I mean, if you guys are familiar with VHS, then you know it's like four or some, I think the first one had 5 segments that were directed by usually a different genre director. And like in that one, the guy that directed Blair Witch, the guy who directed The Raid, who was actually supposed to direct your next part 2, incidentally. The guy who directed Hobo with a Shotgun, Wingard, and then the one I was in, Simon Barrett directed, and Simon was the writer and producer of Your Next. This was the first thing he'd really directed, so I got to work with him, you know, on his sort of directorial debut, which was a lot of fun. It was difficult. The makeup was tough because in that movie something happens. You know, if you haven't seen it, I'll just say something happens to my face that requires a prosthetic. And when the prosthetic was applied, I've done a lot of makeup roles, but it had to be glued from one ear across my upper lip to the other ear. And I smelled the glue as it was being put on because it's right beneath my nostrils. And I'm like, I can't really breathe. This is really chemically strong.
yeah.
But we went ahead and we did the thing. And then when they took it off at the end of the day, lo and behold, I have a chemical burn across my face
Oh, that's not good.
from one ear to the other, a big purple line going all the way across. And then, you know, we had to reapply it a couple different days, which, you know, applying something like that on top of a burn is not pleasant. But
No.
I made it through. And actually, if you watch the movie, the stuff with the appliance was shot first, but all the stuff without the appliance was shot later. So they decided I had this big purple streak, why not use it? So they put on some makeup across my cheeks so that it just showed through a little bit to give the indication that Kyle is already sort of turning into whatever it is he becomes. So if you look very closely, you can see a little bit of that chemical burn peeking through in the earlier scenes. But I'm just full of trivia, man.
Yeah, I'll have to go run back and watch it again because I never noticed anything.
Yeah, check it out. You can see some of that purple peeking through.
Yeah, I mean, like when you know what to look for and the little details and stuff like that, it's different. But I had no idea. So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, you speak very highly of Adam
Yes.
and whatnot. But somebody wanted me to ask, what was he like with working on set?
Adam is great on the set. He's very receptive to people. He's very chill, which is great because it sets a certain mood where, you know, if you're I've only seen Adam lose his temper one time in all the years I've known him, and that was on the very first movie that we did, Homesick, and for good reason in that one instance. But other than that, I've never seen him angry. If he's angry, he doesn't show it, which is great for actors because you already have enough on you in terms of self-consciousness or pressure or time, or you're working in some hot, crazy conditions with effects that never go right,
Yeah.
hardly ever. And so he just keeps everyone chilled out. And he's very receptive. I come a lot of times, I try to always be very prepared. That's just who I am as a person, and it's who I am as an actor. and I come with ideas, and Adam listens to all of them, and 9 times out of 10 he goes with whatever I bring him. If he doesn't like it, then I really want him to tell me, and he will, and I can trust his judgment when he says, well, let's just try this, and then you can do that, and then he'll just use what he wants in the final take. So he's an actor's director for sure.
I mean, that can bring us back full circle to talking about Spiritus as well. I mean, you directed it, you wrote it, but you're taking it. Uh, you can do that with an actor's mindset.
Yeah, I think if you're an actor first, it's hard not to direct with an actor's mindset. Because a lot of times, for various reasons, maybe on some sets, actors aren't. It's about time, it's about schedule, it's about getting it done because we only have 2 days in this location. And sometimes people will lose perspective on what it's like to be an actor, that you can't just always do it. So I definitely put the actors above everything else if I can at all help it, because I mean, if the product's good, it's going to be good because of the people who are on screen. So you need to give them room and license to shine and guide them here and there. There's nothing worse than a director who's going to tell an actor every breath to take and every move to make, and suddenly I'm sounding like a police song. But you know what I'm saying. So I try to give them as much. I want to hear, I wrote Spiritus.
Yep.
I know what I wrote. I want to hear what you can bring to it. I want to hear it through your point of view. And if you have an idea that's better, just because I wrote it doesn't mean it's a better idea. Let's do it.
Yep.
And really good directors will do that. If it doesn't mean change the script. It doesn't mean change all the dialogue because it's an ego type thing. It just means, if they have an approach or an idea that might enliven the end product, there's no reason other than ego that a director wouldn't take it or shouldn't take it.
Like you said about Adam, being receptive.
Absolutely. And I tell you, man, I've worked with directors and not always, I won't say any names. It's only been a few times, but yeah, they're not always like that.
Yeah. It's good when you can be that way, though.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Because you do get a better product, really.
Yeah. I got to bring up a couple of fan questions there now, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
We got Jamie Stamp writes in, and she said, personally, I think Lamb Mask would be one of the most terrifying visuals you could see before you die. If you were locked in a dark house being chased by Lamb Mask in real life, how would you survive?
Well, I would try to disarm him. I think if I could get him disarmed, I would have a fighting chance. Because, he's me. He's the same size as me, so it'd be pretty equal. So, yeah, that would be the best bet. Get that damn axe away from him. Grab that crossbow and just, go man to man. Toe to toe, baby.
Yeah, you don't want him with that crossbow. He's pretty deadly with a bolt.
Yeah, if he has the crossbow the whole time, you can kiss LC goodbye.
Yeah. Okay, Shane Mills writes in, was your next the worst family reunion you've ever been to?
Well, yeah. Not for me. I mean, ultimately, it was bad for me, but I had a lot of fun before they took me out. So
yeah,
I but I got what I deserved. Arguably, I don't know if I 100% believe that, because when you play a guy like that, you don't have to think that what he does is right. But when you're in the role and you're doing the scenes, you have to believe you're the hero of the story. So Lamb Mask doesn't believe that he's the bad guy. He looks at it like, me and my brother and my buddy we had this job. We were just making some money. We go into the house. This woman murders my brother.
Yep.
How am I
personal?
How am I going to let that stand?
First it started out as a job, and now it's personal.
That's right. We were just doing our thing,
Yeah. All right. Justin Wiseman writes in, did you have to have any special training for weapons prior to the role? I would assume he's talking about the crossbow.
The crossbow I shot a lot and handled it just so that I could look like I knew how to handle a crossbow. The axe wasn't really too big of a deal because I was raised in the country. as a boy, and so I'd chop down a few trees. I could chop down a door, but yeah, the crossbow, I did a little shooting on that, and that was pretty fun. Um, Now, in the movie, the stunt people shot the crossbow. They weren't going to let me shoot a crossbow on a set. That's a little, trained or not, that's a little crazy. So every time you see me holding the crossbow, if it has a bolt in it, it's the dummy crossbow. If it doesn't have a bolt in it, it's the real crossbow unloaded.
Okay, I remember one scene you're walking, I think it's back out through the main door, and you have the non-loaded crossbow on your back. So that would have been the real crossbow.
Yes, if you had loaded that thing up, it would have been deadly.
Wow. Okay. Now, how long have you been doing your YouTube show?
I've been doing it for a little less than a year. I think it'll be a year in May or June. Yeah, we've done last week was the 41st episode. So we've done 41 episodes.
And last week, for those who haven't seen it, I took a little bit of it in there. What was last week's episode on?
Last week was about cryptids. We talked about, let's see, what all did we talk about? I don't know, I hardly even remember now. We talked about some kind of a witch doctor, I remember was one of them, even though I don't think that's a cryptid. We talked about a Mothman, the Mothman, actually, of Point Pleasant. Well, we talked about the Bunny Man at the Bunny Man Bridge. This kind of stuff, is fun and entertaining.
Yeah.
That's what my show is about. We don't do political. We don't do crazy kind of incendiary topics. Well, I'm just looking to have some fun, and I want the people to watch it to have some fun, have a few laughs, and spend an hour not thinking about the horrible things in the world. Though we do cover serial killers from time to time. More famously, the Zodiac series we did was very popular.
That was a 5-part?
That was 6 parts.
6-part.
Yeah. And I tell you what, we covered everything having to do with the Zodiac, but I still get messages about do more Zodiac. And I'm like, man, I don't know. 6 hours worth of Zodiac. I think I've covered it. But I always say if they find out who the Zodiac is through DNA or whatever, we'll do another Zodiac show. But we have a lot of fun stuff coming up. True crime stuff, interviews, which I don't really consider them interviews on the show. They're more like kind of discussions.
You recently did the Golden State Killer, didn't you?
I did. That was the one before last, which that is fascinating. It takes a lot of research to do those true crime type shows. Yeah. But if it's a topic that you're interested in, it's like when I write, I do a lot of research for the short stories and stuff that I write. If you're interested in it, it's a pleasure to research.
Yeah.
So sort of my thing is, I know people like the true crime shows, and I'm interested in true crime. So if I can do ones that are interesting to me, then the whole process will be more fun, and maybe I can make it fun for the audience.
Yeah. Like I told you before, I mean, if you ever jump on board with an Ed Gein episode or something like that, I am definitely down. Ed is one person in particular in the serial killer genre that really, really strikes my interest.
Yeah, man, I tell you, we're going to do it. Me and you, coming soon.
There we go. And any chance on possibly a, I don't know, Jack the Ripper?
Well, it's funny you say that, because yes,
nice.
There will be a Jack the Ripper. Yeah. It's not coming as soon as I would like it to, maybe, but it is we're working on it, and it will be a series.
Yeah. Well, see, yeah, you'd have to do that series-wise because it's not as cut and dry as Ed Gein. I mean, we know what Ed was, what happened, and he was convicted.
And yeah, see, like Ed, you could do in a show. There are other ones you could do in a show. There's one actually we're going to be doing at either the end of this month of April or the start of May, which we talked about doing as one, and we were like, there's no way we can do this as one. So that'll probably be a 2-parter. I won't say what it is yet, but it is a serial killer show. But yeah, Jack is coming.
Jack's going to be an interesting one. I've heard so many, and likewise, I'm sure you have too, so many different theories on that. It's just
Yeah.
crazy.
I think it's going to be probably as long as the Zodiac series.
Easy, easy. It could very easily be done as long as the Zodiac. Now, me and you, I've told you this before, but the folks watching that are not familiar or whatnot, bring up the fact about the flat Earth episode that you done,
Yeah.
and I know where you stand on it.
Yeah.
The folks watching, if you're not familiar with LC's YouTube channel, where do you stand on it?
I stand on the Earth being completely round. I am not a flat earther. That show was interesting because it was actually that was one of the shows that was suggested because
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have done it otherwise. I'm glad I did because it was a fun discussion. But yeah, there's no convincing me that the Earth is flat. And you know, you look at some of the comments even on that episode, and I haven't seen all of them, but yeah, I mean it's a pretty heated debate, and it's not something. There will not be another flat Earth show because it's just not something that interests me enough to get into some debate about, something like that. It's like other things that I probably shouldn't mention. It's like there's just really no debate here, you know.
Right.
So I'm not going to go any further into that. But it was a fun hour to sit and talk and hear the other side, because that's sometimes more, people sometimes ask me, why do you even do shows with anybody? Why don't you just sit? And I'm like, well, there's no fun in that. I want to hear,
There's
I
no
want to,
interaction.
yeah, I want to interact. It would be so boring to sit there and just listen to my opinion. That's not to me what a discussion is. So I want to hear different sides of things. It interests me.
Yeah, be respectful and mindful of each other's opinions and whatnot. And sure,
Right.
right?
Right. And I certainly hope that I'm always that way because I certainly try to be always on the show.
Yeah. I remember I told you and I sent you this little thing. I'm with you as well. I mean, the world is round, in my opinion, my humble opinion, folks. There was a guy, he went to the summit of Mount Everest and he placed his flag. So he's seen the bevel in the horizon. He takes a photo and he makes a meme out of it. Checkmate. All you can see is the globe effect from the camera lens. Or I mean, you're up there, you're getting the bevel of the world,
Right.
right? And I sent you one a couple of
Oh,
days ago.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was about to say I don't know if you want to talk about this, but the one you sent me was hilarious.
It was hilarious. Yeah, what was it again?
It's like there are millions of flat earthers all around the globe, which was like that you couldn't. Yeah,
Right.
perfect.
And this is, folks, this came directly from the Flat Earth Society's page.
Right. Yeah, this was
Right.
not somebody trying to make a funny. That actually came seriously from them, and
Yeah.
that it was just hilarious. I sent it to another buddy of mine, actually the guy who does the show, Ryan, who was on the Flat Earth show with me.
Yeah.
And he got a kick out of that too.
Yeah.
That's great.
I try to be mindful and respectful of their opinions and everything, but I mean, that's a bit of a walking contradiction right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And people get fired up, and I understand why they get fired up. No one wants to be wrong, or they want to, feel like they've got it figured out. But yeah, sometimes you just have to go, no, more likely the world is round.
Right. They've got another theory that I read that same day I sent that to you. Apparently now there's a theory that the Earth is literally shaped like a donut, and there's a hole in the center.
I've heard that. That's
What do you call that? The Homer Simpson?
yeah, I guess so. I mean, I
Right?
guess the atmosphere is just the glaze on top.
Right? I don't know, man. I'd like to be able to sit down and just pick one of their minds and
Yeah.
change my mind. Come on, type
Yeah.
deal.
I wish I had the time just to sit around and think up this kind of crazy stuff.
Right?
Sometimes you think, how many millions of dollars in the modern climate could you make just sitting around convincing people of things that are, that the sky is not blue or something,
Yeah.
it's green.
I think it's great. It's just craziness, but So what do we got coming up next on the radar for LC Holt? What can we expect?
And well, I got a couple more movies coming up. One of which I think is shooting in June. I'm doing a movie called Savage Vengeance, which is a remake of the Donald Farmer film. All of these are as an actor. I'm doing a movie called The Drifter, and movie called Butcher's Bluff down in Texas, beautiful town of Austin, Texas, which is a place I love. And until I went there for a convention, a horror convention not too long ago, I had no idea what they meant by Texas barbecue being the best in the world. But man, I'll tell you what, that is something to eat. That brisket blew my mind.
Lives up to its name.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some more of that brisket down there when I'm shooting Butcher's Bluff. That's for sure. But those are three, and then there's another one, and I don't think I can really talk about that one because that's one of the, again, nowadays everything is,
NDA.
NDA, non-disclosure agreement, and which is understandable because on the internet, secrets don't survive.
Yeah, no, the industry runs on NDA now, and understandably.
Yeah.
So who are directing or producing the films that you can talk about?
Well, Savage Vengeance is being directed and written by a guy named Jake Zilch, who has done a couple other films that are coming out soon. Butcher's Bluff is a fella named Billion Stone, the great Billion Stone, and he's going to be directing it with Bill Johnson from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is in it.
Yeah, nice.
Great guy. I've done a few conventions with him. So I'm looking forward to working with those guys on Butcher's Bluff. And some really young, great, talented people.
Nice. Some up and comers.
Absolutely.
We're always on the lookout for those gentlemen and ladies, for that matter.
Yeah, and for God's sakes, just do something different, do something fresh and original. That's what you got to do.
And my biggest thing is support these people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's between going to see a remake of something you saw 50 years ago or going to see something new that you've never seen before, go to see something you've never seen before. Even if you don't like it, you have to promote because the money is, the money you spend to go see these things determines the money they put into things in the future. Yep. So if you don't go see these new, fresh visions, they're not going to be making any new fresh visions anymore. It's sad to say, but they're going to make what makes them money.
That's how it works. That's how the industry works.
Yeah, it's all business, man. Creativity is one thing. Creativity is sort of the water in the glass. You don't have the water without the glass, and the glass is money.
100%. Well, I'm going to be looking out for that personally on my note. I'm going to be looking out for your book.
Oh, yeah. And I'll keep you updated on that as it gets closer. It's still a good ways out, but hopefully this year.
Yeah, nice. I'm going to get a copy of you. All right, man. Thanks for doing this. Like I said, I can't wait to check out that book. And I do have to check out Spiritus as well. Like I said, it's on my radar to watch. Thanks for taking the time to do this. And I can't wait to see what else you got coming up in the future, brother.
Yeah,
and folks, if you haven't checked out LC's YouTube channel, do so. He's got a fair amount of interviews, and a lot of them are very, very interesting. Check out the Flat Earth one.
and funny.
Right? Yeah,
you'll have stuff on there.
You'll have a little chuckle, eh? And thanks for doing this. Like, subscribe, share, and thanks for watching.